Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So here's the thing with the Indiana Fever right now. Training camp has been quiet. Not in a bad way, not in a good way, just quiet. There hasn't been that viral clip, that standout storyline, that, okay, this changes everything moment yet. And maybe that's coming, maybe that's something I'll get into tomorrow when more comes out. But as of right now, there's nothing crazy. Nothing like what we're seeing from something like the Dallas Wings camp, where every other day it feels like there's a new headline or a new talking point. Right now, it's more subtle. It's smaller details. And honestly, sometimes those matter more. Take Jasmine Jones, for example. She straight up said she needs to shoot the ball more, that she needs to stop hesitating. And when you hear that, it kind of stops you for a second, because this isn't some experimental player trying to figure out her identity. She was drafted to do one thing. One thing. Be aggressive, look for her shot, be a scoring threat. And now she's openly admitting that she's been hesitant, that she's been second-guessing herself. That's not a small thing. That's a mentality issue. And at this level, if you're thinking instead of reacting, you're already behind. So hearing that, it's honest, sure, but it's also a bit concerning. Then you've got Alana Smith talking about wanting more offensive reps. And look, I'm just going to say it plainly. She's not an offensive player. That's not where her value comes from. So when you hear that, it almost feels like a mismatch between role and expectation. And yeah, maybe she gets a few more touches, maybe they experiment a bit, but that's not moving the needle for me. If anything, it just reinforces something I've been thinking about with roster construction overall. Because while all of that is happening, there's one thing that stands out immediately when you actually watch the Fever in drills. One thing that jumps off the screen. Justine Pat is huge. And I don't mean that casually. I mean, she looks different. When you watch her move, when you see her standing next to other players, when you see her catch and shoot reps, it's obvious. She has real size. Legit size. Not inflated roster height, not one WNBA 6'1" that's actually 5'11". No, she looks like a true 6'4". And that matters more than people think. Because one thing you start to realize when you look across the league is that height listings are flexible, let's put it that way. You've got players listed at the same height who clearly aren't. You've got players who are 6'4", but stand next to someone else who's also 6'4", and it doesn't look close. So when someone actually shows up and passes the eye test, that's valuable. And Pat does. She's tall, she's long, and more importantly, she can shoot. And not just shoot in theory, not just, yeah, she has range. No, the jumper is clean, it's smooth, it's quick. There's no wasted motion. You watch her in the corner, ball swings to her, catch, release, it's automatic. It looks natural. And that combination, size plus shooting, that's rare. That's where this whole conversation shifts. Because now you're not just talking about a fringe roster player, you're talking about a prototype that every team in the league is quietly looking for. A stretch forward with real size. Someone who can space the floor without being physically overmatched. Now, is she perfect? No, not even close. The defense is the question. That's the swing skill, and everyone knows it. She wasn't terrible defensively in college, but she's not coming in as a stopper. She's not switching onto guards and locking people down. That's not her game right now. So yes, she's a bit of a projection, a bit of a what if. But here's the thing. Those are exactly the players you don't let go, because if it hits big. And this is where I start to have an issue with how the Fever might handle this. If you want to make her a developmental player, fine. That's not the problem. The problem is the risk that comes with it, because once you go that route, you're basically opening the door for another team to take her, and I don't think you can afford that. Not when the roster is constructed the way it is right now, because let's be real, they have a lot of small guards. A lot. Pause. Multiple players in that 5'9" range, all competing for similar roles. And at a certain point, it becomes redundancy. You don't need 5 versions of the same archetype. What you do need is size. You need wings, you need forwards, you need lineup flexibility. And right now, Passat gives you something that the rest of the roster doesn't. That's why this feels like a potential mistake waiting to happen. Because if you're choosing between keeping another undersized guard versus a 6'4" shooter with upside, the decision shouldn't be that complicated. 6'4" shooters don't grow on trees. Even if she never becomes a strong defender, even if she's just passable, you're still looking at a valuable piece. Someone in that mold of a floor-spacing forward who can play within a system, knock down shots, and force defenses to adjust. That has real utility. And if you're getting that on a cheap contract, on a rookie deal with room to develop, that's the kind of asset you keep. Especially when you look at where she came from. A top recruit out of high school, real pedigree, real expectations. The college situation didn't fully maximize her, sure, but that doesn't erase the tools. Sometimes it's about environment, sometimes it's about fit, and sometimes players just need the right opportunity. That's why I keep coming back to this. This isn't about expecting her to be a star right away. It's not about throwing her into the starting lineup or even the main rotation. It's about not losing the upside, because we've already seen what happens when you invest minutes into raw players without a clear trajectory. We've seen the flashes, we've seen the struggles, and at a certain point, you have to evaluate progress honestly. And if the progression isn't there, you have to ask yourself, where are those minutes better spent? For me, I'd rather invest them in a player like Passat, a player with a defined, translatable skill. Shooting scales. Shooting plays. Shooting fits anywhere. And when that shooting comes with size, it becomes even more valuable. That's why preseason matters so much for her, because this is her window. This is where she can force the issue. If she comes out and consistently knocks down shots, if she looks comfortable, if she shows even marginal defensive improvement, then it becomes harder to justify not keeping her. And at that point, it's not even a debate anymore. It becomes obvious. But if she doesn't get that opportunity, or if she ends up buried in a developmental role without real exposure, then you're leaving it up to chance. And that's the part that doesn't sit right, because teams around the league are watching. They see the same things. They see the size, they see the mechanics, they see the potential. And if you give them an opening, they'll take it. So, yeah, training camp might be quiet. There might not be headlines or viral moments right now, but this is the kind of situation that ends up mattering later. Because a year from now, we might be looking back at this moment and saying, either that's when they found a piece, or that's when they let one slip away. And it's going to come down to decisions like this. Anyway, that's where I'm at with it right now. We'll see how things develop, especially once preseason games start and rotations get a bit clearer. But yeah, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Sorry about the background noise. Please like, comment, and subscribe.